Megan Rapinoe. You remember her, right? The egomaniacal, megalomaniac co-captain of the U.S. Women's National Soccer team? Well, she recently did an interview with Vice TV in which she spoke about myths that apparently plague our country, like immigration, women in the workforce, equality, and mass incarceration. Also, she could once again bash President Donald Trump.
Could you imagine?
If there's one thing Rapinoe's comments show, it's that she doesn't know what she's talking about, and I'm gonna prove it. Hey everybody, thanks for joining me here on MRC-TV. I'm Nick Kangadis. I can't believe I'm talking about this chick again, and if you're offended by me calling her a chick, well, I don't know what to tell you, but it's time to give old Megan a little dose of reality.
I deserve this!
So let's break down this narcissist's thoughts and see how wrong she is, shall we? First, she said,
I think we know that, immigration does not cause loss of jobs. Immigration is actually good for the economy.
I don't usually like to trot out Ivy League professors to support my arguments because they're very highly educated, but not always intelligent. However, professor of economics and social policy at Harvard, George Borjas, wrote an article for Politico in 2016 that might deflate Megan's little ego a purple hair or two. When it comes to immigration, Borjas posited the following argument. Now bear with me here. Quote, when the supply of workers goes up, the price that firms have to pay to hire workers goes down. Wage trends over the past half century suggest that a 10% increase in the number of workers with a particular set of skills probably lowers the wage of that group by at least 3%. Even after the economy has fully adjusted, those skill groups that received the most immigrants will still offer lower pay relative to those that received fewer immigrants. Both low and high skilled natives are affected by the influx of immigrants, but because a disproportionate percentage of immigrants have few skills, it is low skilled American workers, including many blacks and Hispanics, who have suffered most from this wage dip, unquote. But what leftist really cares about minorities, right? Just ask the people being shot and murdered every day in places like Chicago, Baltimore, and St. Louis. Next, Rapinoe said this.
We know that women in the workforce is good for the economy. We know that equality is good for the economy.
Notice how she says, we know, before everything, as if what she's saying are widely known truths. And I'm not talking about her truth, or your truth, or my truth, because there are no such things. Only the truth. Anyway, who is arguing against women in the workforce? Is that still a question in 2020? Where are all these people saying women shouldn't work? And I'm not talking about the trash you see on daytime talk shows who just want women to get back in the kitchen. Sure, it's fun to watch skeezicks have a conniption fit every now and then, but the average person doesn't care whether a man or woman is working so long as they do whatever job they're doing correctly. Even if they don't, no one cares. Here's the thing. In 2016, only 18% of parents were stay-at-home moms and dads. It was 20% in 2010, and that was the highest percentage of stay-at-home parents since the Pew Research Center began their analysis in 1990. From 2000 to 2010, the percent of stay-at-home parents increased both among mothers and fathers, even though the percentage was higher among mothers. Pew even stated in their study that, quote, the long-term uptick in dads at home is not driven solely by economic factors. The modest increase is apparent even after excluding those who were home due to unemployment. Furthermore, a growing share of stay-at-home fathers say they are home specifically to care for their home and family, suggesting that changing gender roles may be at play, unquote. As far as Rapinoe's claim that equality is good for the economy, she's talking about a different kind of equality. When she squawks, she's talking about equality of outcome, when she'd actually be right if she meant equality of opportunity. How do I know that's what she means when she says that? Just look at the gender pay lawsuit Rapinoe and her World Cup winning teammates just lost. Their argument was that they weren't getting paid as much as their US male counterparts, but a California federal judge ruled against them because, well, numbers never lie. ESPN reported that Quote, Judge R. Gary Klausner's ruling was informed by the Federation's contention that women's players were paid more in total and on a per-game basis than their male counterparts were during the period in question. Friday's ruling, that was in early May, cited as undisputed fact that from 2015 to 2019, the women's national team averaged $220,747 per game in total payments for a total of $24.5 million, while the men's national team averaged $212,639 per game in total payments for a total of $18.5 million, unquote. Now let's also talk about Rapinoe's claim that mass incarceration is bad for both the economy and society.
We know that mass incarceration is bad for the economy. We know that mass incarceration is bad for society. Ends up costing us more money in the long run, the war on drugs, whatever it may be. I think that has proven to be really detrimental.
Well, take into account that Rapinoe specifically mentions the quote-unquote war on drugs. While some people may have been given sentences that were too harsh for the crime they committed, which is a completely different argument, they still committed a jailable offense under the law. But Rapinoe's assertion is that if we jailed fewer people for drug offenses, there wouldn't be mass incarceration. And that is a patently false myth. According to the nonprofit group Prison Policy Initiative, quote, 4 out of 5 people in prison or jail are locked up for something other than a drug offense, either a more serious offense or an even less serious one. To end mass incarceration, we will have to change how our society and our justice system responds to crimes more serious than drug possession. We must also stop incarcerating people for behaviors that are even more benign, unquote. Finally, let's talk about Rapinoe's continued bashing of Trump. Like most of the alphabet mafia, you know, the LGBTQIA LMNOP crew, Rapinoe hates Trump because, well, Orange Man bad? In any case, Rapinoe calls Trump a quote-unquote white nationalist.
And now you see, obviously, we have, a white nationalist, I think, in the White House.
That term gets thrown around a lot, so let's clear something up right now. A nationalist does not equal a supremacist. Here's the Google definition of nationalist. Quote, a person who strongly identifies with their own nation and vigorously supports its interests, especially to the exclusion or detriment of the interests of other nations, unquote. Now that sounds like a lot of Americans, doesn't it? Even those who identify themselves as nationalists. Now, I don't want harm to come to other countries, but the country you live in should come first. As I've said before, we're the most charitable nation on the planet, and it's not even close. So if you want to help people in other countries, you're more than free to do so. But people like Rapinoe use the term nationalist as if it were a bad word. And if we're going by the definition I mentioned just a minute ago, then there's nothing wrong with being a nationalist. There is something wrong with being a supremacist, white, black, Latino, or otherwise. Rapinoe just used the term white as a qualifier so that stupid people will, like herself, mix up the two very different terms. Plus, it's popular among leftists to promote how evil Whitey is. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, I don't care what color you are, as long as you're a good person who treats people well and doesn't bash people just for having a different opinion than yourself based on their race. If Rapinoe's criticisms were based in fact, then I would disagree and move on. But when you're so consistently wrong, then I have the right to shred your opinion with the facts that she seems to neglect. Now, Rapinoe also said that
there's been nothing to ease, Donald Trump's base, really. There's been nothing. It's not like he's given them a bunch of jobs. It's not like he's made life really better for them. He's just given them this false reason why maybe they're not happy with their lives.
That's really easy to say during the current situation that shall remain nameless, the schmoronavirus. When everybody's life sucks because a lot of us, depending on the state you live in, are considered non-essential by certain governors' communist rules. But before all this crap we're sifting through at the moment, Rapinoe proved that she knows nothing of which she speaks, because for her to say that it's not like Trump's given them a bunch of jobs? Are you kidding me, lady? Or sir, whatever your preferred label is today. He hasn't been good on jobs. Donald Trump, the president. We're talking about the same dude running the same country for the last few years, right? That's the guy you're talking about? If we actually look at facts instead of just spouting off talking points that Rapinoe might have heard while watching Stephen Colbert or Don Lemon. Employment numbers were really never better than they were just before this situation gave politicians the ammo to try and control our lives. Black and Hispanic unemployment were at all-time lows. And just before the world went to crap, again because of China,
Donald Trump don't trust China. China is asshole.
the White House released a series of employment facts on their website that were sourced from the Bureau of Labor Statistics monthly employment situation report. Quote, since President Trump took office, average wage growth for workers now outpaces wage growth for managers. Average wage growth for those without a bachelor's degree now outpaces wage growth for those with a bachelor's degree or higher. Average wage growth for individuals at the 10th percentile of the income distribution now outpaces wage growth for individuals at the 90th percentile. And average wage growth for African Americans now outpaces wage growth for white Americans, unquote. And overall employment, it was at 3.5%, which matches the lowest percentage since May of 1969. Well, that's all of it. Rapinoe's entire argument and criticism against this country that she's supposed to represent, all because she hates Trump, has been proven to be a bunch of BS.
Aren't you embarrassed?
Rapinoe should be embarrassed. I can't imagine being so full of myself that I would spout absolute falsehoods to any media outlet that would listen and be so confident about it. It should really come as no surprise since we hear said falsehoods and promoted propaganda from the media on pretty much every channel available to us. I can't take anything away from Rapinoe's success as a soccer player though. She's one of the best in her sports. But in terms of politics, she hasn't a clue what she's talking about. Then again, maybe she would make a good politician. If you like this video, don't forget to share it and give it a thumbs up. Those are the best two ways to let us know that you want us to keep these videos coming. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so that YouTube might let you know when MRC-TV comes out with a new video. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. For MRC-TV, I'm Nick Kangadis.